Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with Off the Board with Pineapple Papers, and this is my Pinterest pin for today. I really liked how kind of simplistic it was, but how much texture and kind of subtle layers there were in it. I was really inspired by this pin, and I thought it would look really good with my last Christmas photo from last year, which is this photo. We were at my mom's house, and Marcus had passed out. This was after dinner, after presents, after church. You can see Billy in the foreground. My mom's dog Kevin has this bone that's peanut butter scented or something, and Billy is all about it. Like whenever we go to her house, the first thing he does is search out this toy. So we ended up just going and buying his own. So he has his own now. But I just thought it was so funny because this photo, Marcus is like passed out in the background, and then Billy's so proud that he's found this toy, and it's just one of the things I wanted to remember from this Christmas. That was just kind of a funny moment. We're just sitting around the TV in the living room just hanging out at this point, and I just thought this was a fun photo to document. So that's what my photo is. It's just a simple 4x4. It's a pretty neutral color scheme, so I was really excited to try and do something more monochromatic with this page, especially because even though we're doing Christmas, red's not always easy for me to use, and I really thought with this color scheme of the photo and some of the products I had left over, I could really do a more monochromatic layout, which is something I don't think I've shown really so far this month doing Christmas. I'm hoping this is something a little bit different. I really feel like every page I've done so far this month for Christmas has all kind of been a different type of Christmas page, which I think is really fun, especially if you need Christmas inspiration. Hopefully at least one of them is really inspiring. I really liked all the little layers around the photo. I loved the distressed edging with the strips on the top and bottom of the page. I really just going through and finding a lot of the greens with some pops of blue. I found this pattern paper that's blue with some deer on it with Christmas trees, so I'm really trying to lean into that rustic vibe. I love that part of this collection, and I really feel like taking the red away from it and focusing on this green and this blue just gives me a whole fresh twist on this collection, and I'm so in love with it, and I'm kind of mad at myself for not using this color scheme sooner in the month. But last page of the month, and at least I'm getting to it now, so I'm really excited that Pinterest inspiration kind of brought that on, because I think this is probably my favorite page of the month. I'm just going through with a couple scraps here that I had and distressing them. You can see I'm inking everything in my Ranger Distress ink. This is the color frayed burlap, and I'm just going to try and ink everything as I go. With this rustic collection, I just really feel like inking really helps solidify everything and adds to that rustic feel. So especially this one piece I'm going to tear, and then I'll ink the tear, and I just think that looks awesome. There's a subtle kind of notebook print edge in the background of this page, so I thought with a scrap of plaid that I could have in one of these layers, I could mimic that notebook edge. So you saw I already did that, so I'm just trying to get the two kind of distress layered areas on the top and bottom of my page done, and then I can really just focus on layering around my photo and kind of creating that cool banner look. That was in my inspiration page. Another thing I really liked about the inspiration page was kind of the vellum and the textures of the thread, and I feel like there's just a lot of subtleties that added a lot of really interesting kind of vibe to the page, so I really wanted to mimic that on mine. So you'll see kind of how I end up pulling that in, but I'm just getting this top down. I actually end up only having this one piece along the top. I really thought I'd layer more up on the top and bottom, but because my photo is a little bigger, and as I started pulling in what I was wanting to layer, I knew my photo area would look a lot bigger than in the original, so I kind of wanted to give myself more room by not layering more than I had to. I definitely wanted to start off my mat with this green polka dot, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with that, again inking as I go. There's one frame left in this collection, so I figured I could go ahead and use that as a fun layery element. I really like the soft kind of text print that's on it. And I like that it went ahead and added some dimension right away. So after I kind of get this down, you'll see me trim up this frame. I really don't need the detail on the frame. I just want the plain edge of it, which is what I've done most of the month with those pieces. But I am happy I got all 3 of those frames used up somehow this month. And now you can see I'm just trying to play with the dimension because this frame is chipboard. I'm going to add some foam dots around the back of this layer just so this whole layer lays flat against this frame, so everything kind of looks on the same plane as I go backwards with my layering, so nothing kind of looks wonky. So now that I have that frame down, I'm looking for a couple other pieces. I love this polka dot that's in this collection, but again, it has some red in it, and I really wanted to go for this more monochromatic theme. So I went straight for this deer print with the blue. I really liked the introduction of the blue. So again, just inking it, and that'll be my next layer. And then I wanted to go back to the green Christmas tree scrap, so I'll use that kind of as my main bigger layer. But before I get that down, I decided I wanted a layer of vellum just to go ahead and start introducing some of the cool texture that's in the original that I'm using for my inspiration. So you can kind of see it got my foam dots down, so that all lays flat. And now that I have that deer print down, I'm going in with my Christmas tree paper. And I really kind of want to offset a couple of these scraps. So you'll see this one, I intentionally don't mat all the way around. I only want it going around 3 sides just to add a little bit of interest. A lot of the times when you're doing a lot of layers, if they're all squared, it can look kind of boring. So I think having a couple of these layers thrown off and kind of mess up the symmetry a little bit kind of gives you that interest. So you can kind of see that with that scrap there, but this is where I decided to go in with some vellum. I have some plain vellum from Ronnie, so I went ahead and decided just to mat that around the deer print, and I even ink that, and I think inked vellum looks really, really cool as well when you kind of do that subtle inking around the edge. So you'll see me do that even on that layer, but I think that looks really cool. And I know I want to pull in vellum later on the page, so I kind of liked that I already had introduced it in this way. So I'm going to ink the vellum, and then I will glue that onto my little Christmas tree. And I think my layers around my photo is pretty much done other than ephemera. I definitely want to kind of continue what my original was with kind of the circular elements, and then this kind of area branching off to the right with the banners and my title. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to go about doing that. There's also a tag detail that's layered up behind the photo, so I'm thinking I'll use one of these cut aparts to kind of make my tag, and I really decided to go with one of the blue pieces, so I just took this kind of scenic one. You can't really see the scene in the end, but I'm going to turn this into a tag. I just liked that subtle introduction of more blue just to balance out that deer print that's in the layers, because everything's very green, but I do want little pops of that blue. So again, just stealing another hole reinforcer from Karina's little baggie, and that's going to be my tag. I actually don't thread this tag, which is odd for me. I usually always thread my tags, but because there's so much cool texture in the original, I really thought instead of threading the tag, I would just do a whole bunch of kind of messy embroidery floss bundles with white. So that turns out to be really fun in the end once I kind of get to that point. But I'm just trying to layer out what ephemera bits I want to use. I really want to use these kind of tree cross sections with more of the deer. I have a circular piece that says Jolly, that's in that same blue, kind of this exact blue really as the toy that Billy's holding, so I really like how that kind of played off of the photo. But it still went with this kind of more monochromatic theme, so I felt like it was close enough. I'm inking all my ephemera bits as well, and the Jolly bit will be popped up on some foam just so at least that piece has a little bit of dimension. When I'm doing all these layers, I really like adding the dimension so you can really see that they're separate pieces and they're multiple things layered on top, just so it doesn't all blend together or look like one big piece. So it just takes me a minute to ink everything, get everything glued down. I'm getting the foam dots on that little Jolly piece. And now I'm just going to kind of cluster this all together. I don't really want the Merry Christmas of this part to show, I just want the pine cones. So I'm trying to layer up this deer piece over the Merry Christmas, and then you'll see that Jolly piece get layered on top. But I'm really liking how all these layers are looking. I'm going to go ahead and glue them down, and then I need to focus on my kind of banner section that's supposed to be branching out to the right here, because that was one of the things I really liked in the original sketch. But I kind of had to get creative, and yeah, I'm wearing a green shirt. I kind of match my layout. I just noticed that. But yeah, I kind of had to get a little bit creative about this banner because I really liked this kind of long bunting that was in the original, but I didn't really have that shape anywhere, and it's kind of an awkward triangle that needs to be symmetrical. So I just took a scrap of a pocket card and just tried to measure it out and get one triangle straight. So I have my one piece there, and I decided just to use that as my template for everything. I really wanted to pull in vellum as a layer. I wanted to pull in some embroidery floss, but I thought the vellum itself would be a little bit too plain, so I went in and found another piece of this Christmas tree green pattern paper, and I kind of cut through this a lot because I don't want you to have to see me do this 8 separate times. But I'm just using that triangular template to cut all of these triangles so that they're the same shape, or as close to the same shape as possible. So I think I cut out like 1 and then I'll skip, but I need to cut out 4 of this Christmas tree print triangle, and then I need to go back and cut out 4 vellum triangles. I'm going to layer the vellum triangle on top of this Christmas tree triangle and stitch them together to kind of give me that look I'm going for from the original. So I'm just using a little bit of my double-sided tape to try and make sure that triangle doesn't shift as I'm moving it. But there you can see my 4 triangles of the Christmas tree is cut out, and now I'm doing the vellum, and then we'll cut here in a minute, and you can see me going through, and I'll start stitching them all together. I just used a back stitch along the top just to connect them, but I just wanted something that's it's more of a subtle banner, but I feel like there's enough texture and interest to where it does the job. So I think that's my last vellum, or I think I cut here in a little bit, hopefully. But yeah, I thought that was a cool way to kind of use it, and you can see the Christmas tree paper through the vellum, which is nice. But it is kind of that subtleness that gives you that texture that I really enjoy. I'm just going in now and doing my back stitch with some plain white embroidery floss. This is just, someone has asked me, and I tried to remember the next time I did this embroidery floss to grab it, but it's just the DMC embroidery floss. You can get it at any craft store. This is just color white, which is BLANC, which is the code. And yeah, so I'm just using all 6 strands here to do my back stitch, and then when I end up doing my kind of messy bundles at the end, I'll end up pulling each strand apart. So there's 6 strands in the little skein. So the actual bundles themselves will be bundles of single threads. So you'll kind of see that in the end. Hopefully I'll cut in a minute, and you won't have to watch me kind of stitch all of these together, but I am just doing a simple back stitch, and I think I'm doing like 1/4 of an inch, I think, but I just wanted a little bit of stitching detail. I didn't want to do a whole lot, but I wanted that to kind of introduce more vellum and that embroidery floss, so it all looks kind of cohesive once I start adding more of that floss on the page, kind of for the final touch. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm just going to tie off the end so it doesn't pull through the hole, and then I'll do my kind of back stitch really quick here. And I think I do cut here in a minute, but I just want these 4 banners to lay out kind of stretched out from this jolly embellishment, and then my title is going to sit right above that, pretty much the same as my inspiration photo. So you'll kind of see how that comes in, and then after the embroidery floss, I'm kind of looking back at my inspiration, and there's some like wood veneer details. There's kind of a lot of finishing touches that my inspiration had that I really wanted to pick up on, but because this one is more monochromatic and I really like the layers and the detail I already had, I kind of tried to keep it simple with some plain wood veneer. So you'll kind of see that in a minute, but here are my 4 little banners. I'm just going to try and space them out here across the page to create a nice little horizontal element for my title. They look a little wonky, so I think I play around with them a little bit just to try and keep them straight, but they pretty much ended up where I had them originally, so I don't know why I messed around with them so much, but I think it's because I wanted them laid out side by side like the original, but spatially it just worked out better on my page since my photo and my photo layers ended up a little bigger. It just spaced out better for them to be overlapping a little bit, which I end up liking. I really tried to force it to be even in stuff like my original, but that worked out well. So now that I have my banner down, you can see I'm kind of pulling apart my little rest of my thread so I can do my bundles. This part's always really fun. You kind of just have to let go and let it be messy. I'm just gonna lay down some glue tape behind these layers and just kind of smush this messy thread bundle down. And I'm just gonna do that enough times with the thread I already had left over until I like how much messy there is. It's just white embroidery floss, so it's not too distracting, but I think it adds enough interest. So I'm just gonna get that tucked down, some down here. I think I do 2 bundles down here. I do a bundle kind of up over the top of the jolly cluster. I might go back and add another cluster over to the left. Kind of forget how many different bundles. I think I used like 6 messy bundles, so I think I did two bundles on either kind of side where I'm embellishing, but I think thread bundles are so much fun. I don't really do them that often, so I was really happy to see that on my inspiration to kind of get me to do that, especially with this kind of rustic collection. I feel like the thread bundles look really nice. But I think we're almost done here with thread bundles. I do go in with my title, which is some simple white thickers here. I'm just going to say Nap and Play because Marcus is napping in the background and Billy wants to play. So I just decided that would be kind of a simple, clean title. I wanted it to be white and kind of airy just to go with the white embroidery floss I'm already using. I just wanted something kind of simple. And then I'll go in with just, I think I do 2 little clusters of raw like star wood veneer, and that's pretty much it. But I really like how this page came together. I really love how monochromatic it is. And I really like doing Christmas pages that's not, red and green, because I know I've done that quite a few times this month as I've kind of documented Christmas, and I just really love doing this more monochromatic kind of page. So hopefully this speaks to somebody who also doesn't like doing the red and green. But here are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check out everyone else playing along with Off the Board with Pineapple Papers to see what they did with their Pinterest inspiration, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.